Welcome to this explainer. Spending time looking back through the grand sweep of history, it leaves you with a recurring and, frankly, somewhat uncomfortable truth. The game of power is constantly being played all around us, whether we actually choose to acknowledge it or not. I've spent a lot of time analyzing the rise and fall of kings, queens, and courtiers, and today we're going to pull back the curtain on the very mechanics of human ambition. Let's turn the page, step into the court, and see what's really going on.
Okay, let's dive into this. Consider this truth. Power is essentially amoral, sees circumstances rather than good or evil. I know, it immediately shocks the moral compass, right? We're all taught from a young age to judge actions by intentions, by what's right and wrong. But to truly understand the dynamics of power, we literally have to check our emotions at the door. The source material argues that power is ultimately just a game. And in games, you don't measure your opponents by their inner goodness, you measure them by the cold hard effect of their actions.
And that incredibly unapologetic perspective comes directly from this fascinating book, Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. What this book basically does is distill over 3,000 years of historical strategy, I'm talking from ancient China all the way to Renaissance Italy, into one definitive framework. So in this explainer, we aren't just summarizing a book, we're extracting its most potent, rootless historical lessons and bringing them to life, so you can understand the exact mechanics of influence.
To make this efficient, I've organized these ruthless historical lessons into 5 clear thematic pillars. First, the amoral game. Second, strategic dependency. Third, navigating the court. Fourth, strike the shepherd. And finally, number 5, the peril of victory.
All right, part 1, the amoral game, stripping away preconceptions. Remember, we're checking our emotions at the door for this one.
To master, or honestly, even just survive the dynamics of power swirling around you, you have to completely strip away your preconceptions about fairness. It requires a specific, highly disciplined mindset. As outlined right in the book's preface, this foundational mindset is all about control, specifically self-control. You must examine your past mistakes carefully, virtually swearing an oath to never repeat the traps you've fallen into before. You've got to learn to wear many masks, playing with appearances, because, the world judges by what it sees. You have to keep a bag full of deceptive tricks at the ready, but above all, and this is absolutely crucial, you must value patience over impatience. Impatience makes you look weak. It's the principal impediment to power. Everything has to be calculated.
Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 2, Strategic Dependency, binding people to you. So once you have that right mindset, how do you actually start acquiring leverage over others? This brings us to Law 11, learn to keep people dependent on you. The logic here is brilliant because it's so counterintuitive. We usually think of independence as cutting ties, going off the grid, doing everything ourselves. But the source material argues that true freedom actually comes from making other people completely rely on your abilities for their own happiness and prosperity. If they need you, you hold the cards. To really grasp this, look at the mercenary soldier from the Middle Ages on the left. He saved the town of Siena. He thought his sheer bravery made him independent and powerful, but the harsh truth, he was replaceable. Actually, he grew so powerful that the townspeople got nervous and simply executed him to avoid paying him. Now contrast that tragic fate with Otto von Bismarck on the right. Bismarck didn't try to bully his king, he made himself absolutely indispensable. He became the king's spine, his chief intelligence. The king literally couldn't function without him. By controlling the king through sheer necessity, Bismarck was the one who was truly in control.
Moving on to part 3, navigating the court, the art of indirection.
Now, most of us aren't exactly commanding armies or advising Prussian kings, right? We operate in modern workplaces in everyday social hierarchies, so we have to pivot from the battlefield to the everyday reality of power dynamics. This is perfectly embodied in Law 24, play the perfect courtier. The structure of a court society always forms itself around power, and while literal kings and queens might be mostly gone, courts still exist anywhere there is a hierarchy and a consolidation of influence. Think about your office. The perfect courtier there is a master of indirection. They don't use brute force. They yield to superiors and assert their power obliquely and gracefully.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the exact traits of successful modern courtiers. They are, for lack of a better term, magnets of pleasure. People genuinely want to be around them because they know how to please without being a total suck-up. Their aggression must be heavily veiled. But just as importantly, look at the don'ts. Never prattle on about yourself and avoid being overly ostentatious. Drawing the wrong kind of attention or overshadowing your boss is a fatal mistake in any court.
And speaking of fatal mistakes in the court, when people feel threatened,
Their natural instinct is to hide, right? To close ranks, build a wall, and isolate themselves. But, as Law 18 dictates, do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Because humans are highly social creatures, power relies entirely on social interaction and circulation. Retreating into a fortress is actually a fatal trap.
Think about it. Isolation cuts you off from the very information you need to survive. It makes you an easy, stationary target and breeds massive paranoia. On the flip side, circulation keeps you alive. It forces new alliances. Historical masters knew this. Louis XIV designed the Palace of Versailles specifically to keep everyone circulating around him. Or look at the French statesman Talleyrand. He survived the French Revolution, Napoleon, and the restoration of the monarchy simply by staying out in the streets, mingling, and constantly gathering fresh intelligence. Section 4. Strike the Shepherd. Dismantling enemies. Let's take a slightly darker turn here.
Because gathering all that intelligence often reveals adversaries. And when you are faced with a deeply entrenched opposing faction, playing defense just isn't enough. We have to look at neutralizing them. This strategy is found in Law 42. Troubles in a group can almost always be traced back to a single source. You know the type, the overbearing, arrogant individual who just poisons the well. The strategy here isn't to fight the whole flock. It's exactly like cornering a king in chess or isolating pockets in the game of Go. You identify that central figure, you isolate them from their power base, and the broader support simply vanishes into thin air.
The book grounds this rather abstract concept in some truly fascinating historical anecdotes. Mao Zedong used this exact method by quietly isolating enemies in the ruling elite rather than confronting them directly. Queen Elizabeth sent her prime minister's rivals, including the famous Sir Walter Raleigh, away on a mission, which effectively removed them from the court and completely severed their influence. Or consider Rasputin. He attained his massive power by completely alienating and isolating Tsarina Alexandra from everyday Russians. By cutting off the shepherd, you scatter the sheep without ever having to actually fight them.
Finally, we reach Section 5, the peril of victory, knowing when to stop. This is the ultimate and arguably hardest lesson of self-mastery.
So you've learned to play the amoral game, you've made people dependent on you, you've navigated the court, and you've dismantled your enemies. You've won. But this brings us to Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. So the crucial point is that the moment of victory is ironically the moment of greatest peril. Why? Because success breeds arrogance. Overconfidence can push you to reach way past your original goal, and in doing so, you end up creating more enemies than you just defeated.
The text provides a chilling historical tragedy to illustrate exactly this. Back in 559 BC, Cyrus the Great built an immense empire. He defeated literally every king in his path. But when he set his sights on the Massagetae tribe, ruled by Queen Tomiris, his arrogance totally blighted him. After winning an initial skirmish through a sneaky, deceptive trap, he ignored Tomiris's direct warnings to take his victory and leave. He pushed past his mark. In the ensuing battle, his forces were slaughtered, and Cyrus himself was killed. He let success go to his head, and he quite literally paid the ultimate price for it.
As Napoleon Bonaparte, a man who intimately knew the dizzying heights of power and the crushing depths of defeat, warned, the greatest danger occurs at the moment of victory. It's so true. When you win, you absolutely must force yourself to stop, take a breath, reassess. Do not let the intoxicating momentum of winning override your careful, rational planning.
And as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one final flashing warning from Law 40. Despise the free lunch. In the pursuit of power, what is offered for free is profoundly dangerous. It almost always hides a trick or a crippling hidden obligation. Pay your own way so you can steer clear of guilt, deceit, and manipulation.
Well, there you have it. We've unpacked the amoral foundation, the strategy of dependence, the subtlety of the courtier, the ruthless isolation of enemies, and the vital restraint required in victory. The amoral game of power is being played all around you, right now, every single day. The question is, equipped with this knowledge, what move will you make in your court tomorrow?